Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me, please? Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this beautiful Saturday morning. Is anyone here in Lagos? I don't know what's going on out there in other states and all over the world, but here in Lagos, we're having a shower, and I believe it's a confirmation that it's going to be an awesome day. It's a pleasure to have everyone here, and I believe that this interaction, that is a celebration of the Right Fit Marriage Academy's 5th year anniversary, it's going to be an enjoyable one. So my name is Sunday Anani. I'm a co-moderator, and my other moderator is Mrs. Bassi of TRFMA. I hope I got that right. And she is here to also take a hold of this program with me. So please say hello to the audience, please.
Hello, good morning. My name is Ofonime Bassi. I'm so excited to have you here, and we are excited as a whole to have you here. Just sit down, enjoy yourself, and let the session begin. Thank you.
All right, awesome. So there's no time to waste. We are going straight into the program. We'll begin with an opening prayer, and I will be taking that. Let's commit this program into the hand of the Lord. So let me pray from here. Father, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you because you have made this a possibility for us. It has been planned for a number of days, weeks before now. Well, you have written in your word already before now. We know it is in your hands. We pray that you will take absolute control of everything that we'll be doing here today. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
Wherever it may be, you will reach them and address the needs of their heart, even through this anniversary in Jesus' name. We pray for every speaker, we pray for every listener, we pray for the moderator, pray for the connectivity all over the world, wherever people are connecting. Pray you take absolute control. At the end, all we want to have focus to glorify you. Thank you because we believe you answer us. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Hand over to my co-moderator now.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the 5th anniversary of the Right Fit Marriage Academy. And we are so excited today because our event is starting right now. And so to start this session, we'd like to introduce our founder, Mrs. Modupe Ehirim, which is fondly known as Mrs. Mommy Mo, so which is more popularly known as Mommy Mo. We are so excited that even with her age, she has not been deterred. She has gone ahead to build this beautiful community. And today we are celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Right Fit Marriage Academy. Without much ado, I'd like to present to you Mrs. Modupe Ehirim, the founder of the Right Fit Marriage Academy. So let's give her a rousing welcome. Welcome, ma'am.
You're welcome, Mommy. We celebrate you.
Thank you very much. One moment, please. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sunday.
Good morning. Good morning.
I welcome you to this virtual seminar marking the 5th anniversary of the Right Fit Marriage Academy. 5 years ago, I had a brainwave that, and we create a community that simulates a village or a town where people are sitting together and, you know, living as though they were a family. And in that community, they're learning how to be a family together. Please, can you mute yourself if you're not talking? You know, so they're learning to be a family together. And Facebook provided me with an opportunity to do that. It was a trial. And 5 years later, we can see that it is a successful trial. That community is now 15,000 members strong, and people continue to testify every day that just by staying there and interacting with people and discussing with marriage, discussing about marriage, they're learning a lot of things. They're learning how to live life. And so it's my pleasure to welcome you to this virtual seminar that we are actually doing to mark the 5th anniversary of the Right Fit Marriage Academy. You're welcome to the event. Just sit back with your notebook. Our guest speakers are here to really enlighten you and give you a peep into the theme of our anniversary event, which is marriage education, a way to marital bliss. So sit back and enjoy. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mommy. We appreciate your coming up. Thank you for the introduction. We are glad. And I know that every other person out there is equally waiting for this program to just start off. And so we'll be introducing us to the event quickly before my co-moderator takes over and introduces the first speaker. So Mommy has already said it, that the theme for this program, this anniversary, is marriage education, a way to marital bliss. I tell you that we need this not only now, but for even years, to come, because we are in a session, we are in a period where people are miseducated, people are misinformed by the society they are in, even by the families. A lot is said about marriage in the light that makes it look like a trap. It makes it look like you are signing a death warrant, when you decide to sign those dotted lines on the day of your wedding. Then in this program, in this anniversary, we believe that this narrative will be corrected as much as possible, because we believe that education, if well communicated to the people that need it, is capable of transforming their life, transforming their mind, transforming their generation. So I was hosted by the Right Fit Marriage Academy. All right, so my co-moderator will go over now to introduce us to the first speaker. All right, thank you. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Welcome once again to the 5th anniversary of the Right Fit Marriage Academy. And right about now, we'll be starting our first session. But before we start, here are some housekeeping rules. I'd like for you to get your notepad, I've got mine, get your biro, and then get ready to take down all that our speakers are going to share with us today. I'm sure you're going to have an amazing time. So don't be left out. Once again, grab your pen, grab your notepad, and finally put away everything that may distract you, your phone, switch off the TV, and sit right there as our guest speakers start. So right about now, I'll be introducing our first guest speaker. His name is Mr. Yinka Ogunubi. He's an expert in corporate treasury and author of the personal finance book, Honey, Is It in the Budget? As a man himself, he's committed to the mentoring and development of men with the aim of redefining the warped idea of manhood and coaching younger men into being responsible men, fathers, and nation builders. He is able to execute this as the convener of the Man Network, a community of men committed to learning, unlearning, and relearning in order to live the best value-driven lives possible. He sits on several boards and is happily married to Yewande, a lawyer and development worker. Their marriage is blessed with 2 lovely children, and you can follow him on Twitter at Yinka Nubi. So right about now, let's put our hands together and welcome Mr. Yinka Ogunubi. Welcome so much, sir. We are so glad to have you. Please do take over the floor right now. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Yinka. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Sunday. Thanks, follow me. Just a quick check. I need to be sure that you can hear me. At least those of you that are in the room here. So am I loud and clear?
Very well.
Yes, loud and
Yes,
clear,
you are.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for inviting me, Mommy Modupe. I mean, I've known you forever, and I was excited when you invited me here, and you were still trying to find out if I will accept, and I'm like, why is this woman bothering? I mean, all she needed to do was just ask, and then I'll make myself available. Thank you so much. You're doing a fantastic work, and I think that the number of people in your community testifies to that. Now, I have 30 minutes, and I'll just try and run through a quick some things that I have thought through. Now, first of all, a couple of years ago, I made a public apology on social media to people that I have canceled and I have thought about marriage. Now, I've been a Christian leader all my life, you know, from when I was a teenager to when I was in university. I was a campus pastor. When I came out, you know, I was still a pastor in a local church. So I thought, before I got married, I have thought about marriage, and I thought about what it meant to be married, you know, and all that. From the book, you know, the word as in, you know, dishing out the word. So I had a lot of head knowledge, and after, you know, like 15 years of being married, I came out publicly to apologize to all the people that I have canceled. And I thought many years before that I'm sorry, all I taught you was head knowledge. It was not the cuckoo, it was not the practical. Because I then found out that there was a vast difference between being married and not being married, and that there were a lot of lessons and education that you needed to get from there. Very quickly about myself in terms of marriage. I've been married by June 22nd now would be my 19 years of me being married to my wife. Before then, we were friends for 6 years, and we dated for another 6 years before we got married. So in total, I've known my wife for 31 years. I mean, so this woman has been in my life quite literally for 31 years. The most important part of my life, she has basically colored bead in a way. And, you know, so you would think that with 31 years of relationship and experience, that everything will be blissful, that everything that we experience will be fantastic, that we'll be coming here to sing Kumbaya and say that everything is fantastic. But it's you know, it would be shocking to you to let you know that 31 years later, I'm still discovering new things about this woman every single day. And I'm pretty sure that if she were to talk about me as well, she will also say the same things. Now, what I want to share with you is not head knowledge. You know, I'm not going to open any scripture in this conversation with you. I just want to talk. And I want to talk about the things that I've experienced over this past 19 years of knowing this woman, living with this woman, fathering children with this woman, and how, you know, through that experience, you can build a very formidable and blissful marriage, you know, relationships. Number one thing is you need to ask questions. So ask questions. It's extremely and completely important that before you ever go into the marriage experience, you must ask questions. Now, the questions you're asking are questions that are relevant towards the longevity of the relationship. Because you don't go into marriage to come out in 2 years. You go into marriage to make a vow of a lifetime existence with this person, to make a life with this person. So it's not a short-term project, it's a long-term, lifetime project. So before you get into there, you know, you want to ask questions. You want to be sure that you're not just being moved by the chemicals that are flowing in your body, but you are being moved by real things. And some of the questions you need to ask are: one, what is the philosophy of this person regarding finances? It is extremely important. I will tell you why, statistically. Because the statistics tells us that 1 in every 2 marriages, you know, at least globally, will end up in marriage, in divorce. But out of that 50% that will end up in divorce, another 50% of it is mainly because of lack of communication. Communication about what? Most of it is communication about finance. Conversation around the finance that will sustain that union is usually one of the main reasons why relationships break down. So one of the questions you want to ask is, what is the philosophy of this person regarding finance? For all you know, your own philosophy might be, my money is my money. Your money is our money. And that person tells you that that's not my own philosophy. My own philosophy is that my money is our money, your money is our money. So you need to understand, what that person, how that person views money. You also need to understand what kind of personality that person is. I'm pretty sure if my wife I'd asked this question before we got married, she will have known that I'm a control freak when it comes to finances. And it's not about whether I'm trying to prevent her from spending money or not. It's just because I just want to know. I'm just that kind of a person. I need to be able to, do my my records to be able to say that in this month I got this, we got this, we spent this, and then I can plot my income and expenditure over 1 year to be able to see the pattern. I'm just that kind of person. I'm a complete freak, data freak when it comes to finances, and she didn't know that until we got married. And this is after 12 years of knowing before we got married. So you can imagine how some things can just, filter through because you are in love, you are crazy about each other, and then you're not asking the right question. So ask questions, about finances. Another thing you need to ask questions about is the sexual orientation of that person. It's very, very important. Now, people are influenced by different things, as a group. For all you know, your husband might not be influenced by pornography at a very young age, not for any fault of his. Could have been introduced to it by an older cousin and an older uncle or whatever. And those images and those things or those behaviors influence his understanding of sexuality. For all you know, it could have been abused by older aunties, because now it's just now that men are beginning to realize that sexual encounters as a minor with an older auntie is abuse. We didn't know. We thought that it was privilege, really. And some of those behaviors seep into marriage, such that the man begins to have certain expectations regarding intimate relationship because of his experience. For women as well, some of them have been abused. And the only thing that they think about when it comes to the issue of sex is that it is for procreation. I know a couple who broke down, they're divorced right now, basically because the wife, as far as she was concerned, felt that sex was just basically for procreation. And they've had 2 kids. So she was wondering, why was the man always asking for sex? Because they've had 2 kids now. So what else does he want? So it's very, very important to ask questions around sexual orientations. Third question, important question you need to ask is about what is the person's understanding of family? Because we all have different understandings of family. For me, my own understanding of family is my wife, my children, and myself, period. For all you know, your partner's understanding of family might be myself, my wife, my children, my cousin, my father, my mother, my sister, my niece, and all of us together, we are family. So you need to understand what is this person understanding of it. Now, the idea is not to say that, okay, those questions disqualify somebody or qualify somebody. The idea is for you to be able to know if you can live with this person. Remember, marriage is a lifetime contract. It's not a contract for 2 years or 3 years or whatever. It's a lifetime commitment. So you're basically trying to find out from those questions, what do I need to be able to bring into this marriage? Can I live with this reality or not? If I can't live with it, then I just say, you know what, this is it. And maybe we have to reorganize or reassess this union. The second thing, now I've talked about ask questions. The second thing really that you need to also think about when you're about to get married is the issue of commit to grow continuously. Now, one of the problems you have is that in marriages is that people at the point when they are getting married, they're almost at par in their growth, trajectory. They're almost at par. They're almost at the same level. So they just came out of university, or they just finished ICANN, or they're almost at the same level. But at some point, when the relationship begins to get into the second or third or fifth or fourth, you begin to notice that one person is growing faster than the other, or one person is going in one direction faster than the other. And then at some point, it becomes obviously clear to the couples and people that see them that one person has outgrown the other person. So, and usually when you investigate, you find out that one person in that union just stopped developing. They don't no longer take online courses, no longer take They no longer read, they no longer develop themselves. They just feel that they have married and that's the end of it. You are mistaken. You have to commit to constantly growing in that relationship. Marriage is not an excuse not to grow, not to develop yourself. Because at some point, if you don't grow, and you're as a man, if you don't grow, and your wife has grown, it will be clear even to you that you cannot manage this woman because she's managing people who are 10 times your size where she's coming from. So you have to constantly grow. If you grow in your mind, grow in your knowledge, grow in your abilities, grow in your health, you have to commit to constant growth. If you don't grow together, at some point you will be disconnected and that relationship will die. Number 3 is you have to plan religiously. You have to commit to plan religiously. Now, usually what happens is this. A lot of people plan for the wedding, and that's all. So the plan they do is so elaborate, everything is so elaborate, so fantastic, but it's the wedding day, and it ends there, and they leave that. All right. So they plan for the wedding, and then that's it. But if you are going to succeed in this journey to marital bliss, you have to commit to planning before the wedding. Now, what are the things you need to plan before the wedding? So I'll list some of these things. Number 1, how many children do you want to have? As simple as that question is, it determines the trajectory of the success of couples. As simple as it is. Because you see, when you see those children, how beautiful, when you take those pictures, those cuddly little things, and when you hold them and then you squeeze them and all, they always evoke in you this emotion to have more. These emotions to just have them. But you see, whenever you see those children, however beautiful and lovely they are, just put a $sign behind them because they're expensive. They are expensive. And when a child comes into your life, that child takes priority. Listen to me. Before you got married, 2 of you were the priority. After you got married, the first year, you are still the priority. Everything you're still doing it. You see yourself, myself, my wife, myself, my husband. But by the time a child comes in, that priority changes. The priority is that child. That child will determine your career. That child will determine your expenses. That child will determine the choices, decisions you make, where you live, which school you go to, whether you are able to afford certain things or not. And so it is very critical for you to plan ahead of the marriage how many children you will have. Don't go into marriage and you say, how many children? Let's just see how God let's just see how God helps us. How God helps you, Bao. Let's just see how it is. Do you understand the mathematics that goes into caring for children? I broke down this about 6 years ago. And I broke it down 6 years ago that if you want to take care of a child, of course, there's a kindergarten years. And then the child will spend six years in primary school, 6 years in secondary school, 4 years in the university. How many years is that? That's 16 years. You are committed to 16 years of paying school fees. 16 years for one child. By the time I did the calculation, 16 years, if you want the best for that child, and everybody wants the best for their children. 6 years ago, it was going to cost you about at least 30 million naira. And that came down to about 150,000 naira savings every single day for 16 years. Today, guess how much that is? You need to be able to do that same level. You need about at least 350,000 naira saved every single day, every single month to be able to care for one. Now multiply that by 2, by 3, then you begin to understand what you are in for. So it is not a small decision. That decision of how many children you want to have can determine the trajectory of your life, the trajectory of your growth, the trajectory of everything that you are doing. So you need to plan religiously about it. And when you're planning about it, you need to know what you want to do. You need to know what you want to do. So, ever heard of something called family planning? It's very important. All right, it impacts the man, it impacts the woman. So what kind of family planning thing? Somebody will say that, why are you talking about family planning before you get married? Yes, it is because we don't talk about it that will create the kind of problems that we have in our generation today. So you need to plan about the number of children that you want to have, because that impacts ultimately your finances. You need to also plan how in your how you are going to organize your finances, because whatever decisions you make is going to be determined about the amount of income value that comes to you. So how are you going to plan your finances? Don't leave it to abstract. Don't leave it to abstract. So if you are going to come together and say, you know what, we're going to have a joint account. That joint account will have 60% of our salaries into that joint account. That joint account will be determined by joint decisions. Maybe it impacts our rent, our school fees and all that. The remaining 40% is for my family, for black tax, and for me to take care of myself. Have a plan. I don't care whatever you want. You might decide to do 100% into the joint account. You might decide whatever it is. Have a plan around your finances, because that plan will help you to navigate the difficult channels that you will have whenever you face it. And then number 3 thing, you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan how to invest in the relationship. You see, those chemicals that is doing this in your body for single people right now, at some point, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but those chemicals will fade, because guess what? They are hormones. That's what they are. They are hormones. They're just building up inside of you. At some point, they will dissipate. They will go. And when they go, you have to then ask yourself the question, what remains here? So you have to invest in that relationship. Invest in, romantic sessions. Invest in creating memories. All right. So go on vacations. Plan to go on vacations outside of the country. Go to Dubai. Go to the US. Go somewhere that creates opportunity for you, create memories for you, and invest that memory in building your personal relationship together. Number 4, around planning religiously as well, plan after the marriage. Plan after the marriage. Plan after the wedding. Plan after the wedding. Understand that everything that you do is successful only to the level of the nature of plan that you have. So when you put all this together, what you have is you have the recipe for growth, because your relationship will be shaken, your marriage will be shaken, there will be events that will shake the foundations of your union. And so the things that you have set together to plan to do will ultimately be the winning strategy. And then finally, your relationship has to be anchored on God. Because you see, no matter how much you are good, no matter how much you are moral, no matter how much you whatever, it has to be anchored on a decision of God. Now, this is where I will end. A young man came to me a couple of weeks ago, and Christian, and then he was saying that he called me and he said, "Look, Akuika, I'm fed up. I want to divorce my wife. I'm going to divorce my wife." And I'm like, "What happened?" And then he started saying all stuff. She's not growing. She's not developing herself, and all that. I'm tired. I just want to move on. I can't live like this forever. Blah blah blah. All the things he was saying, I was saying. So I said, "Fine, I'll give you a call." I gave him a call, and I said to him, I said, "Look, the Holy Spirit is ever available to help you. But you see, before the Holy Spirit can help you, because you anchor your relationship on God, you have, first of all, to make a decision." And I told him about how, we navigated that the first few years of myself and my wife were born again Christians, were devoted to God. We were very strong Christians, but we had challenges in our relationship. We had issues with our relationship. It was as if we were going nowhere, until one day I realized that for me to be able to love this woman, I need to decide to love her the way God says love her. So the decision is the last thing. You have to decide. Love is a decision. Love is not chemistry. Love is not chemical. Love is not this. It's a decision. So when you make up your mind and you say that this woman or this man, I'm going to marry him, it's a decision that you take that regardless of them, regardless of their behavior, regardless of whoever they are, I've made up my mind to love you regardless. And once you do that, and it becomes unconditional, you'll find out that that love will be reciprocal and that love will flow, from that other person. My prayer for every one of you, especially the single ones, that are taking this important project is that you will succeed. Don't be scared. Don't think, there are a lot of scary stories around mine, but don't be scared. Make up your mind to do these things that I've said, and you'll see the difference between in your own relationship and in your marriage and every other aspects of your life. If you can get it right in your marriage, every other thing will follow on that line, and you'll experience remarkable success in everything that you do. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Over to you, Sonny.
Wow. What a 30 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Inga. I have my notes full, and these are things that we hardly hear every day. Meanwhile, we ought to actually hear them every day. We've talked a lot about what singles should take note of before marriage, ask questions, talk about sexual orientation, understanding of family. What do people think about family? What do they understand family to be? Commitment to growing continuously. This is very key. And people say, okay, well, we have been married for 10 years. I think I'm okay. I've gotten all I need to get in marriage. Let's go our separate ways. We can't grow together again. No, commitment is needed. You really have on that. And it's a very beautiful. My co-moderator, I believe you have something to say. I'll hand over to you shortly. If you have any question as well, we will take that. But I've gotten a feeler from Mommy that at the moment we don't have any question. But of course, we have some questions to ask here if the audience have none. Co-moderator, are you there? I have a comment to pass.
Yeah, I'm right here. Thank you so much, Mr. Ogunubi, for that powerful 30 minutes, very powerful. So much insight. And I just want to have a little recap, of what you shared. So you said that there are certain questions that should be asked. And one thing I've realized is that we don't like asking questions. We especially sometimes women don't like asking questions. They don't want to seem as being how do I put it, as being what's that feeling like, being too nosy. They don't want to ask questions. They are scared. Sometimes they don't want to answer because they don't want to lose the men in their lives. But today, you have shared with us that we need to ask. This is very important because someone like me, I struggle with this. It almost cost me a lot in my marriage. I had no orientation whatsoever. So I think it's that question regarding finance, the personality of the person you're going to marry, sexual orientation as well. Some people have funny orientations about sex. They just feel that it should be done in the dark room, lights off, and all of that. And it's important that these questions are asked. So peradventure, there are issues that need to be sorted out before the marriage that can be handled. So I have a question for you. You are telling us to ask questions. Some ladies and some men are scared of asking questions because of sharing issues about their lives for fear that their partners may leave them. They love someone so much and they feel that there are certain things in their past that this person should not know. And they prefer to just cover it up. So what would you advise? Do you still advise people to be open, ask these questions and answer sincerely? What's your take on that, sir, please? Thank you.
Thanks for following me. It's a fantastic question, and it's a question I get asked all the time, and what I would say is wisdom is profitable to direct, but I'll tell you where I will start that conversation from. The Bible says that the man and his wife were naked but not ashamed. All right, so that's the foundation of marriage. The fact that we are open and there's nothing that should really be between us. All right, so that's the ideal. That's the way I like to see it first. That's the ideal. The ideal is that we're open 100%, and there's nothing that is ultimately between us. All right. So that's the idea. The reality is that we are not at the ideal. All of us. And when I say all of us, I mean like 100% of marriages are not there. But that's what we're striving to be. So the question I usually ask people is that what is the cost, all right, of full disclosure? Now, I practice full disclosure, my own marriage. Myself and my wife practice full disclosure. And that means that everything that I earn, for instance, my wife knows. So my wife doesn't know, and everything my wife earns, I know. My wife is a signatory to my personal account. She's a signatory to it. So if I'm not there, she can sign, all right, on my behalf. She knows my payslip, she knows my salary, she knows everything, she knows, every money that comes to me. And there's a reason why I practice full disclosure. Not just because the Bible says that man and his wife are naked but not ashamed, but because I feel that it is very key and very core to the growth of the marriage itself. Now, women, and you will testify to me, on this, because especially if you have a child, when a woman is going into labor, is she concerned about the sex of the gynecologist that is attending to her, or the doctor that is going to help her in labor? She's not. She's not concerned about it. She's going to fully disclose, okay, to the doctor, so that because that doctor is important for that doctor to have all the information about her and access to her, so that he can help her deliver the baby. Even when we are talking to our lawyers, all right, we practice full disclosure with lawyers, all right, because you know that if you don't tell your lawyer everything, your lawyer doesn't have the capacity to help you. Now, these are people that are strangers to us. They are strangers, complete strangers to us. But we're able to practice full disclosure with strangers. How much more somebody that you stood before an altar and you pledged to stay with till death do you part? Did you make an oath with your lawyer? Did you make an oath with your doctor? You never had any oath to them, but you fully disclosed to them. Why? Because you know it's important, for the longevity of your life that you do so. So how much more the person that you're in covenant relationship with? So the question so my answer to the question is simple. The ideal is that we're 100% in full disclosure. We're not there. So measure where you are and then ask yourself, what do I need to do to get to that ideal?
Awesome. That's awesome. I wish I can be clapping all through. Thank you very much, sir, for that very wonderful answer. Openness is very key before marriage, after marriage. I also want to quickly ask, because at the moment I don't think there's any question from our chat room. There is none. I want to ask a question about commitment, because it's what. Is that a question?
There is a
okay.
question.
Let me go.
Yes, please. There's a question here.
Okay.
All right. All right, sir. Thank you so much for answering that question. We have a question here, sir, has just been sent to me. So please, sir, here is a question. Many people hide the fact that sex is important in marriage. Shouldn't I have sexual intimacy with my intending spouse to be sure if we are compatible? So I hope you got the question.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Sex is.
Okay.
Sorry, just come back.
Okay, I'll take that again. All right. The question says, many people hide the fact that sex is important in marriage. Shouldn't I have sexual intimacy with my intending spouse to be sure if we are compatible? That's the question, sir.
Oh, okay. The question is, to try to have sexual intimacy as a way of knowing that person. I hear that all the time.
Yes,
and
sir.
I think it's a very convenient, it's a very convenient a question to which people try to use to mask, a different desire. The desire being that they just want to have sex. That's all. And my answer is that if you're going to go with that logic, then you're going to have to replicate it in every other aspect of that person's life. All right. So it's not just so you want for you to know if you are sexually compatible, you want to have sex first. Okay, fine. So for you to know if you are financially compatible, start doing joint account, or start collecting, start spending money together, start collecting this money, or start, or you want to know whether the family is very, very compatible with you. So start living with the mother-in-law. So you find out that whichever way you look at it, that doesn't answer the question. And which is the reason why I say that, if you want to be able to get ahead of this, ask questions. There's nothing you want to know about somebody's sexual orientation that you will not find out when you ask that person's questions. Now, I agree to an extent that the practice has a way of cementing certain things, but that practice comes in conflict with scripture. And that scripture is what we're all subscribed to. So if it comes in conflict with that scripture, then you have to find a way to be able to ensure that you are able to get the right kinds of information. And I'm convinced, and I've seen it many, many times, that the questions you ask are able to help you. Now, there are professional counselors, married counselors, who can help in doing these things. And that's why marital education is very important. It's not a field that is very popular, to be honest with you, because a lot of what we have is just a lot of misinformation out there. So marital information is very important. And there are professionals like Madam Modupe, for instance, who will help you craft the kind of questions that can help you find out the answers you need, such that you don't have to commit yourself to sinning against God, basically, to getting that kind of feedback. I hope that is helpful to whoever asks that question.
Yeah, I believe it's really helpful. It's clear enough. It's clear enough. I don't know, Michael. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I picked that point. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I picked that point where you said people just want to have sex, because that's the truth. People really want to have sex, so they look for a reason to mask that desire. Anyway, we have one other question quickly. Our time is fast spent. We should be rounding up actually in a minute from now, so that we can move to the next. Oh, 2 questions actually. So let me quickly put them together, and you give us an answer, sir. And maybe we'll round up and move to the next, because we want to ensure that we'll keep the time as much as possible. The question is, in asking, this is from YouTube, sir. In asking questions, what if we can't see through the differences in our perspectives? How can one know what is right and what's wrong and what's right fit for their relationship? I've been asking questions, what if we can't see through the differences in our perspectives? How can we know what is right, what is wrong, what is just perfect for our relationship? That's the first question. The second one, also from YouTube, is at what point should questions be asked in a relationship? I think this has been answered actually, but as they put it across, at what point should questions be asked in a relationship? Those are the questions.
At the point where you decide that you want to be in a relationship, exactly. And the relationship defined by you want to have a long-term relationship with somebody. So there are different stages of that. So sometimes we're just exploring with this person, whether to work out or not. That is fine. But at every point where you decide that you want to take this relationship forward, you have to keep asking questions. And those questions don't stop after you get married. It goes on even after marriage. You understand? So at what point do you ask questions? At every point of that relationship where you need to move forward certain things. Because even when you are married, at some point, when you get married, you're probably not married with children. Some people get married after they've had their kids, but in most cases, people have kids after they get married. So a woman who has given birth, in marriage, is not the same woman you married who was not a mother. So you must understand that things change. The whole process of a woman giving birth changes that woman. I don't think men understand that at all. That the process of a woman carrying a baby for 9 months, delivering that baby, going through labor, caring for that baby, mothering that baby, changes that woman. Multiply that by 2 or 3 times that the woman goes into labor, and then you understand why sometimes she sounds unreasonable. But really, you don't understand what has gone through her, that she has changed. So you need to always, at every point in time, find out, ask questions. What is happening to you? Is there something that I'm doing that I need to improve on? I mean, are there things that are important to you now that were not important to you before? Because people change, and we must understand that. The first question, I think, I don't know, maybe I forgot the first question, but can you remind me? Or maybe I've answered it.
The first question is about perspective. How can we see the differences in our perspective? What if we don't see it? And how can we know what is right or wrong for our relationship? That is the question, sir. Did you get it, sir?
Is for you to be able to determine what you need to do, what you need to do, what it will take for you to move that relationship forward. So if you decide in the process, if when you see from the evidence of the answers that you have, when you see that you cannot, there's no lifetime plan for this person, you have to have the courage to be able to tell yourself the truth, whether or not you want to go ahead with that relationship. And that's what makes it easy for people who are still singles. If you are still single, you have the opportunity of saying, okay, you know what, we make a pause here until we can sort out this issue. Because if we don't, and we enter into a relationship, we're still going to face this challenge elsewhere. So while some things might not be clear, don't be in a hurry. Just because there's this, romantic thing about getting married, to force yourself into a union that you will regret at the end of the day. That's the reason why you need to ask questions. Like the story I told of the couple who are divorced now because the wife just basically, is not interested in intimate relationship. Maybe if the man knew that and from the very beginning, that's our perception, but that's the way she saw a sexual relationship, maybe he won't have gone ahead with the marriage. So that is very important feedback that helps you make decisions going forward, whether you want to continue with this marriage union at all.
Our audience, the answers that you are giving to questions are from the session. Because of our time, I think we'll take it off from here and move to the second speaker. I want to appreciate you for sharing your knowledge from your bank of knowledge with us. We know that what you have shared with us is a seed, and as we have listened here and in all other places, we believe that God will germinate the seed and people will live a better life. So thank you very much, Mr. Yinka. Now we will be moving quickly to the second session. I'll be introducing.
Thank you, Sunday.
Thank you, sir. I'll be introducing the second speaker to us very, very quickly. Let me just get a profile. Okay, so our second speaker is Mrs. Ganiyah Sulaiman Olokodano. Yes, Mrs. Ganiyah Sulaiman Olokodano. She is a princess. She is a princess of the Alafin royal family of Oyo Town. Wow, fantastic. So great to have you here, madam. She's a psychologist. She has gone into private practice to cater for the unique needs of culturally sensitive relationships, particularly among the Muslim population. And she does this through the instrumentality of education, counseling, coaching, and therapy. The loved Dr. G, as she is called, is a more affectionate. She's affectionately referred to as the loved Dr. G. And she has been a guest on numerous television and radio programs. I think it's a very rare privilege to have you on this platform. Then she is also married to Mr. Sulaiman Olokodano, who is a Lagosian, and this marriage has lasted for 22 years, and they have 2 lovely children. This is fantastic. You are welcome, Mrs. Ganiyah Sulaiman Olokodano. Please, you have the floor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm truly privileged to be on this platform to share my thoughts and ideas. And thank you again to our dear Mommy Mo. This is a beautiful community that you have created, and I want to congratulate you again on today's on the celebration of your 5th anniversary. May the community continue to wax stronger and stronger as you impact more and more people by God's grace. Yeah, like I said, it's an honor for me to be here. And I was also taking notes when my brother Yinka was giving his talk, so that number one, I won't invariably repeat what he has said, and then I also learned, so to say. The truth of the matter is that we all have our experiences, we all have our unique aspirations, particularly for the singles. And like I always say, there's no such thing as an average marriage. Every relationship is different. Every relationship can be different. It can be as unique as you want it. But then again, your own love story, how do you want to write it? What do you want your love story to be? Sometimes we look at other people's lives and we say, oh, we want to experience what Mr. and Mrs. A have. But are we also ready to do the work? Are we ready to make that sacrifice? So, like we've all said here, marriage education is very, very important. And like Brian Yinka said, many times, most of today's singles, unfortunately, they are more concerned about preparing for the wedding and not necessarily the marriage. So you have people, they are practicing their photo shoots, they are doing rehearsals, but hardly would you find as many people doing that, equally taking the time they need to get themselves properly prepared for marriage. To God's glory, I got married almost 23 years ago. That was in 1998. And during that time, we didn't have social media as we have it now. In fact, we didn't even have GSM then. I think the form of communication that we had was mainly Nitel and this Nokia, not 9 what's it called? So the only way we could communicate then was mostly face to face. We didn't have a phone in my house, but my husband, his mom did then. So if I needed to even make a call, I would have to travel all the way to the Nitel post at GRA, which was just like a few meters away from where he lived. So you can see how communication was, but it also meant that we needed to make all the effort. And perhaps that helped us in our process during our courtship. We met in 97 and we got married like a year and a week after. So I can say that we didn't have that length of time to really get to know each other. But like I always tell people, and of course, based on my own personal experience too, is not sometimes for some people, because it works different ways for each and every one of us. So it's also about us knowing what really works. For some, like Brother Yinka said, he had enough time, he and his wife, to really get to know each other. And thankfully that has helped their relationship. Others, they may just need, that quality time, no matter how short it is, for them to really understand and assess compatibility and know whether they are a right fit for each other. And that's where, like he also said, asking the right questions come in. But then again, it's not even about asking the right questions. Like I always tell singles, it's also about listening to the right answers. Because, I mean, with Google and online, education and all stuff that you can go online and Google anything, people they probably have a checklist of the right questions, the questions to ask. But do you have that skill to listen to the right answers that the person is telling you, so that you can discern whether this person is the right person for you? I'll share a bit of my story so that I would carry us along on how I was able to thankfully navigate this, this phase of my life, because the phase of getting married is a necessary phase for many of us. And again, sometimes people don't realize that. Yes, for many of us from this part of the world, Africa, Nigeria, getting married is like the next phase after you've graduated from school. So even our parents that would hitherto not have allowed us to have any, in quotes, friends of the opposite sex, suddenly by the time we've graduated from school, we've probably finished service and have maybe gotten a job, the next question they will ask you is, particularly our Yoruba mothers, so when are you bringing home your husband? Or are you, for the men too, when are you bringing home my wife? And you'll be wondering, last week you were still saying I shouldn't have anybody.
Sorry, ma.
Now
I would like you to
suddenly...
say, I would like you to say that question in Yoruba, ma, so that we'll get the input properly.
Yoruba parents will say, you know, even aunties, all those aunties, you know, and then it usually puts many of us under pressure, because now the person suddenly just, you know, there's this pressure to meet somebody and bring the person home and you know, check the next thing on your list. But really that's not how it should be, because ideally as singles, we should prepare for this phase of our life. Like Brother Inka said, it is the phase that is perhaps the longest in our lives. Marriage for almost all of us is a forever thing. I'm sure even the people that ended up getting divorced, when they decided to get married to each other, they assumed and thought that it would be a forever thing. So the choice of who we decide to spend the rest of our lives with should not be taken lightly. It shouldn't be. But many of us, that's what we do. And it's because we haven't adequately prepared for it. We would usually meet somebody and start experiencing all the giz, you know, all those butterflies in our stomachs and all that. And then we throw all sense of caution out of the window. It's okay to feel those butterflies. I certainly did. I'm a diehard romantic. So I don't de-emphasize the place of the butterflies. For many of us, that is what we see us through the best part of our relationship. But it's also important that we put it in the right perspective. For me, for instance, when I met my husband, it was a transition period in my life. I was just trying to become a more conscious person. I'd certainly had my experience as a, you know, whatever life had to throw. I wasn't overtly religious as I look now, but, you know, I'd gotten to that stage in my life where I needed to make a 360. And I was just out of a relationship that I realized was going nowhere. So when I met him, literally, getting into another relationship was like the last thing on my mind. But I think perhaps because of what like had been mentioned, I studied psychology. So I was almost through with my service year. And then that was when I met him. Perhaps maybe because that's what I studied, it helped me to navigate that phase. And so invariably, in the course of my practice as a counselor, I have used whatever it was that I went through as a learning points that I teach singles. And, you know, one of the things I realized was that, yes, when I met him, I wasn't ready, so to say, for another relationship. But thankfully, I quickly realized that, there were certain things about this particular person that made me have a rethink. So yes, we met in December 1997. And by April 1998, that was just about 4 months after, we already knew that, we would like to get married to each other, to spend the rest of our lives together. But we didn't, you know, sign that contract. We didn't actually get married until December. That was almost like a year plus after. And during this process, it was like a learning period for us. It was the time that we used to understand each other better. And, you know, like I said, it was also a time when it wasn't even just me. Both of us were transitioning to becoming better Muslims, so to say. So when I met him as a brother, you know, Brother Suleiman. And so I knew that certain things were off limits. There was not going to be anything like premarital sex. There was not going to be, you know, the usual dating that people would do, because we were now getting more religious. And for us as Muslims, that is not encouraged. So we had to be ingenious. We had to find other ways of, you know, getting to know each other, which we were able to do in groups. We had an organization that we were both attending, and as best as we could, we used that opportunity to get to know each other. We were also able to ask the right questions. And asking the right, there's no question you can't ask, like Brother Yinka has said. Even the questions about sex. I always tell people, you don't need to actually do the act of, intimacy before you know how good you can be. By the time we are all adults, we would have developed our sexual personalities. And by asking somebody the right questions and listening to the right answers, you can even get to understand better what kind of sexual personality a person has. So it's not about practicing it, because sometimes, even those of us that have been married now, yes, when we first got married, the thing was shocking us. We were probably being intimate almost every night, but years down the line, the frequency would dwindle. So it's something that is expected. So if you are already doing it before you get married, it's not a guarantee that when you are married, you will continue to be the same thing. So that's practicing it is not before marriage is not a yardstick, but asking those right questions and being able to ask the right questions would first stem from your ability to even set your marriage goals from the onset. Have the right mindset about marriage. Most times, many people just want to get married because, like I said, there's now pressure from the home front, from family, from friends. They think, oh, this is the next step in your life. So they may not necessarily have set their goals for it, and their mindset is not being tuned for them to even think about marriage. So usually the very next person that they are probably introduced to or that they meet and they think, oh, this person is looking like husband or wife material. So they throw all caution to the wind. They turn a blind eye to all the red flags and all that. And then, God forbid, they end up making a mistake. So having the right marriage goal, what is your goal for marriage? Why do you want to get married? How long do you want to get married for? If it's forever, because we have funny stories now. People have a 5-year plan for marriage. They have a 20-year plan for marriage. So they just want to get married, have a kid or two. I know it's part of their career goals. So they would even deliberately start doing stuff by year X that they've planned, so that the marriage will end up, falling apart and they can get divorced and become single again. A lot of funny things are happening. But for those of us that still believe in marriage as a forever thing, then when we set our goals, we need to see how we can get somebody that would be part of that forever. And so it brings out a need in us, because sometimes these things are not, we can't do it alone sometimes. And that's the truth of the matter. We must also realize that you can't just say, oh, getting married, I don't need help. I don't need anybody to matchmake me. I don't need anybody to help me. That shows that I can't take decisions on my own. No, sometimes the best decisions we take in our lives are those that have the input of people that also care about us, or people that are professionally, equipped to help us deal with it. So sometimes when we have this need, we need to also come right out and say it. I think one of the things that also helped, like I said, during those days, I was just transitioning to becoming a better person. So one of the things that my organization then would encourage is, people that are ready to get married, come out and say it. Are you ready to get married in the next 6 months? Are you ready to get married in the next 3 months, 1 year, and all that? So we were usually, then we were all very open and honest about our decision. So even though for me, I thought I wasn't ready to get married, but I was open to relationships and all that, because almost like a month after I started going, that was when I met my husband. So I was ready to to flow, to learn, to know what I needed to do. Particularly, as I said, now I was becoming more conscious and I was dealing with a brother in quotes. So I needed to know how to navigate the relationship and all that. We must also be willing and ready to make necessary sacrifices and adjustments. And that's where being open, being vulnerable, being able to fully disclose, like Brother Yinka also said, matters. I think a lot of us, we don't realize that when we choose somebody that we want to spend the rest of our lives with, this is somebody that, like you said, your doctor must know everything about you. If you are pregnant, for instance, and you've had several abortions, your gynae is not who you would now keep that from, because your previous pregnancies can, determine the current one that you have. So you need to fully disclose. Your lawyer too, like he said, you need to disclose. The person you want to spend the rest of your life with, if you've already seen that, oh, this person might be the one, you need to disclose, particularly things that can have an impact on your relationship, whether now or in the future. And also, from when you know that, oh, this person, this thing I may want to hide is something he's particular or she's particular about. For instance, somebody is like, maybe the guy is the only son in his family, and you already have an idea that the whole village, they are waiting for him to birth an heir. You get it. His mother is waiting, his grandmother, his aunties, everybody in their town, they are waiting. And you probably already know that, oh, you have fertility issues. You get it. You try not giving full disclosure can impact that marriage negatively in future. So sometimes, even when we now disclose fully and say, oh, this is my situation, you may be surprised that whatever the person feels for you, birthing that heir, that village heir, may not be important anymore. But that will make a difference when you disclose, not when you keep it. Because again, yes, we all make plans. Oh, we want to have 2 children, we want to have 4 children. But like my religion explains to me, we plan, but God is the best of planners. And this happened in my own case. Yes, my husband and I, we had probably discussed how many children we wanted to have. But guess what? When we had our first child within the first year or 2 of our marriage, we didn't have another child until about 11, 12 years after. So it was like all our plans flew out of the window. I mean, by the time I had my second child, I was almost 40. So even if I wanted to have 3 or 4 children, that plan had to change, because I realized, oh, do I want to start having kids? Now I'm like, I was 48 just about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. So sometimes we make plans, but we must also give room to those plans changing. And so we also need to have a partner that can go along with us, that will be willing to make those necessary sacrifices. And it's not just about us making all the disclosure. We must also allow and expect our partners to make full disclosure. Sometimes we are so open about the things, about us, that we forget to give the other person a chance to also disclose or be open or be vulnerable. And then if the other person probably has something to hide, they would also hide under that and say, oh, you didn't ask me. One of the things I always ask, I always tell singles in my sessions is that, look, sometimes you meet somebody, and for instance, the person, you discover that, oh, this person smokes or this person drinks, and you are a religious person, in quotes. And maybe every time you met that person, they were in their religious mode, maybe used to meet in church or during your religious activities in the mosque and all that. So those are not places they would likely smoke or drink anyway. And then you get married, or you're already deep in the relationship, and you see this person doing such, and you're like, well, you didn't, the person will just simply ask, but you didn't ask me. And when you think about it, yes, you really didn't ask the person. So some people, if you don't ask, they would not tell you, particularly if they sense that, oh, if they tell you, it may impact, on their chances with you. So you must learn to ask the right question. And this is where it also becomes necessary for you to sometimes involve a third party. Like Brian said, again, marriage counseling, marriage education is something that is really just catching on. Indeed, when I decided to go into relationship counseling and all that almost 20 years ago, it was something that was even hard. In fact, I point blank had people who would tell me then that they didn't need counseling, that they didn't need marriage education. What was there? You want to tell me what I need to know before I get married? So it was a challenge then. It was very strange, particularly in this part of the world where people didn't even see a need for, talking to a professional before they did anything. There's that auntie, there's that cousin, there's that friend who is always ready to, give you the listening ear. So doing such things formally was not something that people, appreciated. But thankfully, that is changing. There is more awareness. For instance, recently I keep getting calls, inquiries, people want to they want to get marriage counseling or premarital education before they get married. So that awareness is coming on, but we are still a long way. We still have a lot more people that will still believe that, oh, I don't need counseling, I don't need education. And you now find out that when they get married and issues come up in the relationship later, they are usually things they should have addressed before they got married, that they will probably have dealt with better. So sometimes it's also necessary that we involve a third party, specifically a professional or somebody that is well skilled and has the experience to help us navigate that process of marriage. One thing I would also like to point out is that whenever there is an opportunity for us to meet somebody, we should take it. Many of us still don't believe in the importance of matchmaking, whether it's informally or formally. Sometimes it's the people that we meet through others that care about us, that know us well enough, that will be best for us. Maybe our colleagues at work, that auntie that we are very close to, that neighbor, people that know us, that probably know us even better than we know ourselves. They know the things, those things that we say, oh, I want a man that will do this and that. I want a woman that has this and that. People pick up on these things that we say. They see our behavior, they see our character. And so when they meet somebody that they think may be right for us, they would be happy to introduce us to that person. So there's nothing wrong in, us taking those opportunities. Yes, when I met my husband, I met him in the midst of other people. But I think others too were able to see that, oh, we were a nice match for each other. So almost everybody that knew us, they were like, oh, when are people getting married? Because they already saw us like a good match. And so they also encouraged the relationship to thrive and all that. So opportunities like that, communities like Mommy Mo has created, even some online platforms where people are encouraged to meet each other. We can take note of those things. But of course, we should always do the needful by, going the extra mile to take the necessary precautions. We should also be willing to take that risk. Honestly, marriage is a risk. More importantly, is a leap of faith for those of us that profess, one faith or the other. It's like Yorubas will say, "Izoja okuku," night market. No matter how hard you prepare, you can't really say for sure, except of course for God's mercy, that, oh, this person, oh, even after I've done my due diligence, I've done everything, this person may or may not mess up. So really is the grace of God. But honestly, if you've done your own bit, you'll be sure that, oh, all things, working well for you, you would have made the right decision. It's a leap of faith in the sense that you have to just anchor your trust in God. And that's why I always say, marry somebody that fears God, perhaps even more than they love you. I know the two major faiths, Christianity and Islam, having that fear of God is something that, both religions preach and all that. When you marry somebody that has that fear of God, they will be able to do what is right, even if they don't want to. So a man or a woman that understands that committing adultery or even premarital sex is first and foremost a sin. And it's not even a sin against God like that. It's a sin against themselves, their own soul. So even if they are tempted to, they know that, because most times when people do those things, they hide it from maybe the person they are dating or the person they are married to. So most likely we don't know. But if they are conscious of their Lord and they know that, oh, whether my spouse is there or not, God is seeing me, that is enough to keep them, to hold them. When they fear God, they would also do right by you, even if they don't want to. So a person that fears God and understands their responsibility, what their responsibility, their duties should be in a marriage, would want to ensure that they meet those responsibilities. And so things like that would help you better in your relationship. And it swings both ways. As you expect to marry somebody that fears God, that has that fear of God, are you also somebody like that? Because it takes two to tango. As you are growing, like Brother Yinka has said, I mean, as you expect somebody, you want to marry somebody that has grown, that has matured, are you also making that effort? Because if you are at level 1 or 2 of your development, and the other person has already reached their peak, then by the time you now grow in the marriage, there's no space for the other person to grow, or the level they can grow to again is now limited. And that's where you now begin to see disparities. So ensure that both of you have that capacity to keep growing, to keep learning, to keep adjusting. And that's where this is where your compatibility as two individuals come into place. Whether it's your finance, whether it's your intimacy, whether it's your ability to communicate, whether it's your parenting and all that, you need to ensure that you are both compatible in all these aspects. Most times when couples have issues, it's not because they are necessarily or inherently bad. It's because whatever they have in each of them is not enough to help that relationship. And that's why you see sometimes a couple may have issues and they end up divorcing, and then they get married to different people, and those relationships would thrive. So these things are very important. When we talk about communication, for instance, how well do you communicate as a person? What's your own love language? How does it match that of your intended partner? These are things that you need to know. If you are a die-hard romantic, you want somebody that, brings you flowers. You want somebody that every time he comes to see you, he's coming with chocolate and all that. And then you now meet somebody that's, he's more like a local man. He doesn't believe in all that. His own way of showing romance is to go out there, work, you get it, and bring home some money. You're going to keep having issues because whatever he does, you would never appreciate. But perhaps if you now understood this person, that, this is his own love language, he's not going to buy me flowers. Instead, he will use that. His own flower is maybe a lubo or gari. He will bring home 5 kilo, 5 kilo of gari when he's coming and say, please, mommy, I brought this for you. When we understand these things about each other, sometimes it helps our marriage. Because again, people have some unrealistic expectations about marriage. I remember when I first started counseling, we had issues of people that were quarreling and the marriage was almost going to break up about how the wife cooks beans. It sounded like a trivial thing, because this person was already used to how his mom cooks beans for him at home the last 25 years before he got married. That's how he knows how to cook beans. How he knows beans to be cooked. He now marries a woman who is coming from another background, another family, whose mother has also taught her, maybe the last 22 years before she got married, how she cooks her own beans. So she comes home, she's now the wife, she cooks beans the way her mother has taught her. And then they start to have issues. But you now begin to realize, this issue is beyond the style of cooking beans. There are issues of, communication. There are issues of, of ego. There are issues of role play. Who wants to have the upper? So the man is the man of the house, is what I say. You do things, no matter what you have been taught in your own family. When you come to, now that we are married, you should do things my way. So perhaps you should go and learn how my mother cooks beans, so that you can cook it that way for me. And the woman too, she's like, this is the way I've always known. There's nothing wrong in the way my own mother cooks beans. So you begin to see that a whole lot of issues are at play. So as professionals, as psychologists, these are things that we hear and we see in the counseling room. And so we always encourage singles to discuss these issues. Sometimes you may think they are trivial. Some men are particular about age, So if you marry somebody that is, you are dating somebody that is like 5 or 10 years older than you, there's nothing wrong in that. But what is this person's idea about age difference? Most of us in our cultures, siblings are like 2 or 3 years older than each other. And we know, particularly in the Yoruba culture, people, once you are older than somebody, you call that person auntie or brother. So if you have a spouse or intended that is like 5 years older than you, that means he's probably 2 of his seniors. I mean, 2 of his younger ones are like they are like your own mates, and they call him maybe brother or something. So sometimes if that person is traditional or has that mindset that, oh, somebody younger must, show respect in this way, it may even impact in your relationship. Because when you get into marriage with that kind of person, you may think, what do you have to say? I'm 5 years older than you. Your idea wouldn't matter. So these are things that we need to discuss. My time is running out. So I'll just like to conclude that hopefully, I hope that today's single, they are taking note of all these things. And for many of them, they may be able to do these things on their own. But even better, when they are able to seek the right professional help, such that communities like the Right Fit Marriage Academy is doing, and so many other groups. It's for us to know which one would help us achieve our purpose the best. Like I said again, marriage in both religions is something that is not taken lightly. So the place of God should also not be overlooked. I pray that God makes it easy for those of us that are single to take the right decisions, to go through this step the best way that would ensure that we get married, not just to our soulmates, but to people that would make us happy by God's grace. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity. I would await questions and all. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Ma'am Ganiyah. That was an explosive session. Thank you so much. In fact, I just have a recap. Let me just read out certain things that you said here. You said, apart from listening for the right answers, I mean, that struck me. You also said that we should set our marriage goals from the unstated and then have the right mindset towards marriage. You also asked that you also asked us to make room for change. Even when you plan, you should make room for change. Think change can happen. You shared your story. You wanted to have children at a particular time, but there was a delay and you had to adjust to the change. You also asked us to be mindful of our relationships, who we hang out with or people around us. And that was where you brought the issue of matchmaking. Matchmaking is not a bad idea after all. And finally, you said something that really struck me, that marriage is actually, when you want to marry, you do it as a leap of faith. Is something that is risky that you must take. You may not have the perfect picture sorted, but you just make the leap anyways. And compatibility in all areas, communication, love language, and a whole lot. Now, while you were speaking, someone asked a question. Since you said that we should listen for the right answers, not just about asking questions. Someone asked a question. He said, how do you know the right answers to listen to, ma'am? So let me take that again. How do you know the right answers to listen for or to listen to? Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. Basically, most times when we're asking questions, I mean, the person you're asking questions knows that, oh, this is like judgment time for me. So unconsciously, they would want to tell you the answers that they think you want to hear. So you want a man that is religious, you want a man that is financially stable, so to say. But you also want a man that doesn't have anger management issues, that will treat a woman right. So you realize that whenever this person is with you, he's playing all nice, Mr. Nice Guy, he's gentle and all that. But when you are both in the car and he's driving, if any Okada man should pass in front of him, he's cursing and swearing, you know, and generally being, you know, I mean, exhibiting violence, as you say. He's treating his subordinates, his driver, his employees at work in a manner that, you know, should tell you that this person, oh, let me watch out. You get it. The way he relates with his mom or his siblings will give you an idea of how he treats women. And you're not picking up on those cues. So even though he has told you, oh, I mean, he has even shown you that he's a nice guy, he will come and pick you at work because you are still dating. And you tell him, oh, sweetheart, please, I'm sorry. I just need about 30 more minutes. Let me finish up with my boss and all that. And he say, no problem, I'll stay in the car and, you know, wait for you. You get it, and you're like, oh, he's so sweet, so understanding. But he's once in a while, maybe when you hear him talk to somebody in a similar situation, you hear what he says or the way he responds. That is an indication of who he really is by default. So you pick up on these things. Those are the answers that you need to listen to, the cues that you need to watch out for, that will really show you, oh, this is who this person really is. The way he treats others when he thinks you are not even there is a determinant, is a show of who that person really is. So it's not only about what they tell you, how they respond. That's what I mean by you also listening to the right answers. And it means that you have to up your skills of observation. Because when we are cutting, everybody's coming out with their best behavior. They are showing their best character. Like a couple told me, I mean, a separate counseling session, they both used the word packaging. You know, when I heard that years ago, I was like, packaging, packaging. And that's the truth of the matter. When we are cutting, when we meet somebody, we package ourselves. You know, we are at our best behavior. We are being nice and all that. So we are not necessarily exhibiting our best, our true selves when we are with that person. So it's for us to observe them in the midst of other people when they are dealing with other people. And that would also, so when the two rhyme, you know, somebody that tells you is a nice guy that treats you nicely and also treats other people nicely shows you that, okay, this is really this person's character. That's what I mean.
Okay, thank you very much, man. That's a very concise answer. Somebody also asked the question that can one's vulnerability cost one the relationship one is in? Can your vulnerability cost you your relationship? That is the question. Maybe I should add the third one, and you probably will want to answer them together. The other question is, sorry, let me fetch it quickly. Where's that? Okay, so the question is, how do I handle conflicts that may arise when my marriage goals are different from my intended spouse? How do I handle conflicts that are different when my marriage goals are different from that of my intended spouse? And then what if our career goals are far apart? How can these situations be handled in a relationship? Those are the questions, man.
Okay, the first one about vulnerability. I think whatever would likely impact negatively on your marriage by the time you are married, that would affect it, that may even lead to a breakup. That is already an indication that you need to disclose it before now. Because if you will likely scatter your marriage, then you should not even be getting married in the first place. Sometimes people know the truth about us, and then they would still want to be with us anyway. You get these things are psychological. I remember when I met my husband, one of the first issues we discussed was our blood group. And it was important because for my husband is AS. Thankfully, I'm AA. And he actually ended his previous relationship because the lady was also AS. So when we met, yes, we're already feeling the giz of love and all that. But I think before our senses flew out of the window, one of the first things he told me was that, please go and do blood tests. Of course, I already knew my blood group, but I also had to play along. And I remember that evening when he took me to go and pick up the test results. And when we got into the car, like I said, we were both, just getting back into the faith and feeling very religious. So I wanted to play the faith card, and he was like, okay, before you open the result, no matter what, even if you're AS, I'm still going to go ahead with the relationship. We pray that, the Almighty would see us through and all that. I felt really happy. I felt really touched that, okay, so perhaps if I had also been AS, he would have gone ahead with the relationship and all that. But thankfully, I am AA. So when he saw the result, he was happy and all that. So sometimes we may have certain aspects of our lives that we think, oh, this person, if I disclose, they may not want me again. Why not just disclose? If the person truly doesn't want you again, it means you have saved yourself a whole future of headache, because it also means that eventually, if the person gets to know this about you, that marriage would either break up, or, as Yorubas will say, they will just put you somewhere. You get it. You have medical challenges that would impact on your marriage. Please disclose. Sometimes when the person is now aware, it may help them to rethink why they really want to be with you. And you never know. So sometimes I encourage full disclosure. I do. For instance, my full disclosure was one of the things that helped us in our 11-year challenge having a second child, because my husband already had an idea about what my medical challenges were. So the delay, he was able to help me, to support me, even when we had, as expected, pressure from family. So things like that, when you disclose, either of two things would happen. It will either make the person accept you for who you are, or make them also see that, look, okay, yes, I love you, I want to be with you, but this is a challenge I can't deal with. And it would also help them decide to move on. Either way, you are helping yourselves, because you are saving yourselves a whole lot of headache. Most times, the same things you are hiding would be the cause of, major conflict and even breakup in the relationship. So I encourage full disclosure. Your second question, please remind me quickly. I've forgotten. I'm sorry. Hello.
Yes, I'm here, madam.
Okay.
I'll recap it quickly. Okay. The question is about. Sorry, please. What if our marriage goals are different? How do we handle that? If our career goals are widely apart, how can we reconcile such a situation?
Please, that's very, very obvious. If your marriage goals are different, what are you getting married for? Please. And that's where assessing your compatibility is one thing. To meet somebody and say, oh, this person might be the one. What marriage education and marriage preparation now does for you is to see how compatible you are and whether you can now go ahead with that marriage. Each of us that we are married today, we could have married probably 10 or 100 or 1,000 other person. There are so many people that on the surface would look like a match. But when we narrow it down, we each ended up getting married to who we are married to now, because we had to look at certain factors and realize how compatible we are. For instance, for me, part of my marriage goals was finance. I needed somebody that was stable. My marriage goal was also romance and chemistry. That giz feeling is very important to me. So when I met my husband in the midst of so many other brothers, so to say, I literally met him alongside like 4 or 5 other brothers. And truthfully, I always say this, it was only him that, made my heart skip a beat when I saw him. Don't forget, I said he was a brother when I met him. So that was something I picked up on amongst those 5. I decided to pursue that. And thankfully, he also scored a high enough point on the other criteria that I have. But for me, yes, finance is key. But I wasn't looking out to marry a Dangote, so to say. So it didn't matter whether he was earning so much or not. I just wanted somebody that had the capacity to work and had the right mindset about taking care of his family. And indeed, like the second year of our marriage, in fact, my husband literally resigned from his banking job the day after we did our first daughter's naming ceremony. That was in 2000. And I know the challenges that we went through for like a year or more. You know, things were literally like, we had to start from ground zero. But because of, I mean, these were things we were both prepared for. I had envisioned a life with him that, okay, even though right now he has a good job, what if he lost his job? Would I still be willing to stay with him? So I pictured a future where both of us were as broke as anything. And it didn't change the way I felt about him. Instead, it made me say, okay, what else can we do? How can we both, you know, overcome this challenge? So these are things that we need to look out for. If your goals don't align in these areas, you are going to have challenges. So once you realize that your marriage goals are not aligning, please, that is an indication that this person is probably not right for you. And guess what? If you don't let go of that kind of person, you are not going to meet the right person. I also tell singles, it's not about being single. It's also about being available for the right relationship. Sometimes we meet somebody that has 60% of what we want, but that person is not necessarily the right person for us. If we don't let go of him or her, we will not meet the right person who will have 90% of what we want. So being clear about your goals would help you be discerning enough to realize, oh, this person, our marital goals are at variance. Please, our compatibility is not at the level that I want. And so what marriage education and, preparation will do for you in this instance is let you take that decision to leave that relationship so that you can make room in your life for the right person to come. So it's very, very important. Not having compatible goals may be an indication that that's not the right person for you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much for that answer. I think the second part has also been answered, which has to do with career. So just to round off, there are no other questions. Yes, they have been answered quite right. But we have these questions are from the moderators. That's myself and Mr. Ofofimi. So, Onofimi rather. So I want to ask about how were you able to manage the transitioning from a heartbreak? You had that heartbreak, that relationship packed up, and then you were able to, transition into another relationship so quickly. Most singles don't have it that easy. They tell you they are broken fast. Some can go about whining and crying for a year, and they don't want to give room for another person again at all. So how were you able to easily migrate from that relationship that didn't work and then move into another? Well, of course, you mentioned the psychology part of your career, but for those who don't have this background, how can they do this transitioning? Okay, let me leave that. My co-moderator will ask the second and last question before we round off. We want to make sure that we keep the time. Thank you.
Okay, let me quickly answer that so that I don't forget all the answers. I think one of the things people need to do when they have relationship heartbreaks like this is for them to actually sit down and acknowledge. Most times people just move from one relationship to the other. In fact, some people, they get into another relationship as a cure for, dealing with a previous hurt. But that's not the right thing to do. You need to sit down either on your own, if you are able to do that, or with the help of a professional. Or sometimes even if it's informal, that friend that you can always, cry on their shoulder or pour out your heart to. But you need to first make that conscious effort to acknowledge that, yes, this relationship has failed. In fact, my 10 previous relationships have been failing. Acknowledge that and accept it. And now, also realize that you need to move on. Most people are stuck. They are stuck in dealing with their past hurts, their past relationship trauma. And so if they are in that state, and somebody comes, pressure or out of, love for them, that their auntie, that their friend, their colleagues at work that think, oh, stop being moody. You need to get your love life, on a roll. So to make you forget. No, sometimes we need to admit that we have made mistakes. Getting into relationship that didn't work out is not a sign of failure on your part. It's an indication that, one more person that would not be right for me has been shown to me, and so the relationship has ended. But once you are able to admit it, you now have to also accept that, what do I need to do moving forward? And it's in that moment where you don't have anybody yet that you can take the right decisions. You can now, write down those your relationship goals. Like Peter Drucker said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. That is the time for you to now create your ideal partner. And honestly, at least with my own experience and with, some of the singles that I've worked with, when you actually sit down to create your ideal partner with the things that you want, that you have learned, that are known that are important for you, the universe somehow conspires to make it so. If you have written that, I want somebody that is God-fearing, that has this financial, stability at this level, blah, blah, blah. You actually write down the traits you want your partner to have, and also the things you don't want your partner to have, which is also very key. I call it your must-haves and your can't-stands. So the things you want in a partner and the things you don't want. When you write down those things, you will be surprised that you will now begin to meet people that you will see those things in them. Sometimes we only write the things we want in a person. And so when that person also comes with a lot of baggage that we don't want, because we didn't focus on those things that we don't want, we may not see those things. We may be blind to them. So that period of, healing from your heartbreak is also the period for you to learn, to begin to, create that relationship future that you want. And you see that it helps you. It helps you become more focused. It helps you become more discerning, more, choosy, so to say. Because once somebody comes into your life, whether they are introduced to you or you met them on your own, and you see that this person doesn't have the bulk of what I want, you are willing to let go quickly before the relationship gets too deep. So that's my advice.
Okay. Thank you very much, madam. I just want to, I want our audience to have a feel of the response from your co-speaker, Mr. Inka. I hope you are there. Hello?
Yeah, he's still there.
Okay, awesome. So I want to ask Mr. Inka Ogunubi, what's
yes,
your...
I'm here.
All right, sir. So you also talked about opening up. You are for all openness, open up. And then the first question Mrs. Ganiyah answered was about vulnerability. Will this not come in a relationship? What's your take on this, sir? Did you get the question, sir?
No, I didn't get the question. Can I come back again?
Okay, I said during your session, you also talked about you are pro openness, open up, just as you open up to your lawyer, to your medical officer, whatever. So one of the questions that Mrs. Ganiyah answered is about vulnerability. What's your take on how vulnerability in opening up can make one to lose a relationship? What's your take on that, sir?
It's I think Ganiyah had made a very, very important point on the issue of vulnerability. And it shows how important it is for you to trust your partner. The reality, the truth is this: you can never get the best out of your partner if you're not vulnerable with that person. Because you see, the safety of marriage is that you can be yourself and you can be safe in that place. Because your partner knows you. He knows you with your good moments, your bad moments, your weak moments, your strong moments. Your partner can literally make you or kill you, quite literally. And sometimes I always put at the back of my mind that the most powerful men that you see around, their wives know them at the point where they are not all that powerful. So reality, vulnerability is a core component of relationship, and it's important that you feel that you are in a place where you can be vulnerable and then you can be safe. Unfortunately, what has happened is that some couples have experienced the opposite. So instead of feeling safe in vulnerability, they've actually felt that being vulnerable has been the reason why they have been targeted or the reason why they've lost. And so what happens is that they close up. They don't open up. They're not themselves. The relationship becomes very, very, very dogmatic, very predictable. It's not, there's no, there's no spontaneity there. Even sexual intimacy, it has to be planned and has to be written on there has to be a schedule for it every Mondays, Fridays, and then any other public holiday. But the reality is that couples must learn how to be vulnerable and feel safe in that vulnerability. And that's where full disclosure comes in. Because full disclosure doesn't necessarily mean that you are, disclosing information that might be favorable or good to you all the time. It's about, knowing that this is my challenge. These are the issues that I'm having. And I'm ready to work it through with you. And between myself and my wife is what we do all the time. And people must also understand that the fact that you are married doesn't mean that you cease to be a human being. You have blood flowing inside of you. You can be attracted as a man to another woman. As a woman, you can be attracted to another man. I mean, it's life. You are a human being. You're not a stone. That you have blood flowing inside of you. Things can happen. Vulnerability is where you can find safety. So and learning how to understand that helps. And what myself and my wife go into all the time is that I learned to just tell her when I'm in that vulnerable state, so that she can help me manage and deal with that. And then she learns to tell me when she's in a vulnerable state. Vulnerability should not be a weakness or disadvantage for couples. It should be a strength.
That's powerful. Wow. I took that. Vulnerability should not be a weakness. Yes, you said vulnerability is where you can find safety. That's actually very powerful, because we should actually understand marriage as a union where the people involved are out to help each other's weaknesses, not to hit hard on that weakness. Yeah, so I seriously like that perspective that you brought to it. And I also like what Mrs. Ganiyah said. She said sometimes people can know the truth, yet they will still want to stay with you. The way our husband said before the results for the blood test was even open. So that's a very strong point. So I want my co-moderator to ask the last question. We have just a little above 10 minutes more. I want to appreciate everyone even before we round off for very good time management. So my co-moderator, Mrs. Vasi, please come up with your last question if there is none from the audience, so that we can round off. And I want our two speakers to share their view on the question.
Okay, I have one more question. I hope you can hear me loud and clear, please.
Yes, we can.
Okay, please. All right, so the last question here is for Mrs. Ganiyah. Please, my question is, when can matchmaking go wrong? Because sometimes people have great intentions for people that they intend, as in they want to make them couples, but one person may not be interested. So when can matchmaking go wrong? Did you get the question, Ma?
Yes, I did. Well, even from that point, once there's an unwilling partner, so to say, it's already an indication that the marriage or the relationship at some point or the other would go wrong, would break down. And even you would hear later that, oh, I wasn't really interested. It was because they forced me. Matchmaking was something I did for years in my capacity as a youth leader in my religious organization. And at some point, my training as a psychologist, I had to bring it in. You know, matchmaking, we all do it for the right intentions. So almost every religious organization, they have singles programs where they would encourage singles. Okay, all singles gather this Sunday at this event we're having, and they will tell people, oh, who is ready to get married in 3 months, in 6 months. I know everybody is feeling that religious vibe. We are all feeling holy and all that. So, but beyond after that event, okay, you've met Sister A and brother B have met each other. And then they go after the event, what happens? Sometimes they don't take that next step. So it's one thing for people to introduce you to somebody. When they do that, they have good intentions. From their own perspective, they think, oh, this person, both of you would make a good match. But like I always tell people, you are your best matchmaker, which is probably why I started my relationship education program for singles. Because I realized once you give singles the skills that they need to matchmake themselves, so to say, in quotes, they are the best person that will know. So your organization, your auntie, that's professional, that person who even does matchmaking professionally, they introduce you to 2-3 people who has characters that you have indicated that you want in an intended spouse. The person is not going to have 100%, or all those people will not have 100%. They will probably have varying degrees of, from 50 to 80 or whatever. It's left for you, the person who has to make that decision, to choose any of those that you think is best for you, or to even reject them. Most times people are shy because, oh, it was my pastor or my imam that introduced us. So you already have this psychological block that, oh, they probably know what is best for me. And you are too shy to say no. So you don't really like that person, but you go along. But the truth is, if you don't really like that person, you don't really like that person. And it will come out 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. Sometimes even 6 months. We've had so-called, marriages that have broken down. And that's when people will not say, yes, my heart was not really in it. Please, if one person is not interested, it's an indication that, you should have a rethink. Even when people matchmake you, you are left with the decision to agree to it. I always emphasize that. It's ultimately your decision because you are the person that will spend the rest of your life with this person. So, and that's why knowing what you want in a partner is very, very important. Once you know what you want and this person either has them or doesn't, it's easier for you to take a decision. Sometimes you also think, oh, this is what I want in a partner. This is where the place of faith also comes in. We must also know when to, listen to the voice of God, so to say. Or, for instance, before I met my husband, I always say this thing. I wanted, the usual hairy-chested, V-shaped, handsome-looking guy and all that. And indeed, I had people like that. I mean, as an 18-year-old, my first boyfriend, who was almost like 10 years plus older than me, it was that dream. Those of us that read Mills and Boons in those days, he had all those features. So he spoiled things for me, so to say. So in my mind, I always wanted that kind of man. But guess what? When I met Brother Suleiman, one of the first things I noticed was that he didn't have hair. Not that I saw his chest, because like I said, he was a brother. But the day he wore like shorts, I saw that, oh, there was no hair on the legs. I know that was, for me, it always sounds funny. But it was a moment of decision for me. Because I realized, okay, this person that doesn't have hair on his legs, that means he will not have hair on his chest. And so I had to rethink that idea that, oh, I want a V-shaped, hairy-chested guy. There was this skinny-legged man. My husband is not at home, so I can say it. There was this skinny-legged man but he made me, I pictured this is the chest I'll be sleeping on or beside for the rest of my life. So I needed to take that decision and I realized, oh, having hair doesn't really matter because he had other features that had compensated for it. And thankfully, 23 years down the line, I'm still sleeping beside that hairless chest. I'm finding it very sexy. So, you know, sometimes you see certain aspects of, you know, your intended. You now have to weigh which one is more important. You understand? I would rather have him hairless, but I know that my husband can go to the ends of the world for me, which are values that I find more important. So even when people matchmake you, know the things that you want. Be very clear about them, so that when you need to say no, please, as Yorubas will say, ma fi itiju karun, because you are the person that will spend the rest of your life with this person. So you should be able to know when to say no. But saying no has to come with knowledge.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much, Mrs. Ganiyah Sulaiman. We appreciate your very concise response to this. Our time is fast spent. There's one last question that is outstanding. I think we should just quickly take it. I would like Mr. Yomi Ogunnibi to help us quickly address this in 2 minutes so that we can have a vote of thanks and then call it a day. Before 1 p.m. again, we congregate for the married segment of this anniversary. So the question, sir, is can God tell you who to marry exactly? This question is coming from Facebook. The first question from Facebook, by the way. Can God tell you who to marry exactly? And is it that there is one person for one other person in this world? The concept of God made somebody for you. How true is this, sir? So this is a question from Facebook.
Fantastic question. By the way, Ganiyah, I love your stories. They are beautiful stories, you know, and I hope to hear more of them later. Now, I used to believe, if you asked me this like 20 years ago, I would have told you that God made one person for every one person, that there's only one person, you know. And we grew up as teenagers believing that all you needed to get married was just to say God said, you know. So during our time, a lot of the brothers that were toasting sisters then would go and say, God told me. And that's where all those things came from. God told me that you are going to be my wife. The unfortunate thing was that we abused it. And brother that has been spending nights dreaming and thinking, and we're dreaming about the sister, just suddenly wakes up and thinks that God has told him that that's going to be the wife, and then and all that. So I no longer believe that. I no longer believe that there's one person that is marked, branded, and sealed for you. I believe that there's a frame of who that person is, but not necessarily a name or personality. So, and that frame fits into what is important for your destiny. You're going somewhere. God is designing your life to be something, to impact something. And that woman that's going to be with you has to help in support of that, you know, of that assignment, of that purpose that God has aligned. So it's not one woman, it's not one man. It is that person who recognizes your vision, who recognizes that he or she can be part of this, and is ready to align with you and partner with you for that progress. And in doing so, you learn along the way what you need to do in terms of your personal relationship and in terms of the kind of decisions that you take going forward. So if you ask me, I don't believe that. I believe that, of course, God can tell you who to marry. We've seen that in the scriptures where there were specific instructions of God to certain people to marry certain people. That's possible. But I don't believe that there's one person designed absolutely and branded and allocated to you by eternity. I think that is not necessarily true.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So, meaning that there is no factory made, no factory made man or factory made woman for you.
No, that's not.
Yes, there is this frame. This person will be fit for your destiny. This person fit that picture, not just your own picture or your own specifications, but what God ideally communicates to you, as the case may be, pertaining to marriage. Thank you so much. It's been a very wonderful time with everybody in this first session of the anniversary. I want to use this period to appreciate our speakers. Thank you, Mr. Ogunnibi, very wonderful perspectives you have shared with us. Mrs. Ganiyah Sulaiman, we cannot appreciate you enough. Deep, deep interactions, deep stories, heartfelt revelations, things that will hardly be said in even in some certain quarters. You have really both shared with us. We cannot thank you enough. I also need to thank my co-moderator. I just don't know. I don't pronounce that first name well, but let me just call you Mrs. Bassi. Thank you so much for being a very wonderful colleague on this platform.
Thank
Appreciation
you.
also goes to those
Thank
behind
you.
the scene who have made this very seamless. If not for you, well, probably we'll be cracking up here. Then we also have to thank Mommy
Mo.
Mommy Mo, yes, MMO. So thank you, Mommy. I appreciate our coordinator, Mrs. Boluati. We are your colleague. You are a very wonderful person. You communicate so well in writing and speaking. Thank you so much. And for the technical team, we cannot appreciate you. To you, I give you thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. 2 thumbs for you from here. So thanks a lot. So our audience, I want to remind you, an hour from now, we'll be reconvening for the marriage session. If you are singles, still join in because you have a lot to learn. And so on this note, I say very much thank you to everyone. Have a good day as we look forward to the 1 p.m. session. Bye.
Thank you so much. And nice seeing you, Brian.
Nice seeing you too, man. Are you on social media? Are you on Twitter?
Yeah, yes, I follow you on Twitter.
Really?
That was why my heart when I saw that we were both going to be speakers.